Love hurts. You know when love really hurts?
I can tell you, it hurts when you have a breakup.
That's right. When you got a breakup and you got a mortgage and you got a bunch of stuff that you got to divest, oh, that's not a good situation.
No, that can certainly be a very challenging situation. And Todd, I'll tell you, half our files have a family issue, family law challenge.
Half of your file.
I would say half of them.
Wow.
Either, someone's getting divorced, someone's getting separated, people are getting together, they're getting married, they're getting remarried. Mm-hmm. Half our files have something that complicates.
And how much of that could be avoided with some planning?
I think certainly a big portion could be avoided.
Yeah.
No one ever thinks their relationship is going to break down. I think we are just so optimistic.
And that's a good thing.
As people.
That's a good thing.
And, February is a great time to celebrate your relationship, but celebrate all year long. I think sometimes these relationships break down for things that we talked about last month in Mary Detmas. Sometimes it's debt is what makes these relationships break down. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just they don't like the person anymore. Okay, that's cool, whatever.
Yeah, that can happen.
But I think that when a relationship does break down, there's a business aspect to it as well. It's not just the emotions. Mm-hmm. Especially if you own a piece of real estate together, that can be a big challenge for people.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a matrimonial home. Certainly there are laws in Nova Scotia that protect married people, whether they're on the title or not. There's the Matrimonial Property Act. So, for example, if a couple owns a property, but only one person's on the title, if they're legally married, the other spouse does have legal rights to that property as well. So that's one thing. And, there's certainly some programs out there specifically for people that are going through a matrimonial breakdown. There's a product called a spousal buyout, and you can buy out your spouse up to 95% of the market value of the property. So that would be just the same as you going to buy a new property and putting down 5%. You can do a spousal buyout up to 95%. So it's something that not a lot of people know about. Normally, when you think about doing a spousal buyout, you think about doing a refinance and just, okay, I can refinance up to 80%. That's all I can get. Can't access any more equity. But the interesting thing with this spousal buyout program, up to the 95%, you can also pay out an equalization payment to your ex. You can pay out any joint debts as long as you pay them out in close. So like if you had a line of credit or a loan together or a credit card together, you could pay that out as well. As long as that's stipulated in the separation agreement, then we'd also get a private purchase and sale agreement to make sure that last 5% does not need to be repaid. Great, great, great program. And I think it's a program that not a lot of people know about. So if you're going through a separation, seek the advice of an unbiased mortgage professional. They know about these programs that maybe a normal bank branch they wouldn't know about. Mm-hmm. Because, there's not a program, that the bank, and when they do click through their system, there's not a program available. But this is something that the insurers will do, like the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, Sagen, and Canada Guarantee. They're very, very aware of spousal buyouts, and we do them all the time. It's a great, great program, especially for the spouse that wants to keep the matrimonial home. Oh, we see this a lot for people that have kids. Yeah. They love, one parent loves keeping the matrimonial home, so it gives the stability to the kids because, it's a tumultuous time.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have these conversations with people? It's difficult, obviously, when people are in love and things are going well, but so when do you broach the topic, or do you broach the topic, or do some people have the wisdom to and the maturity to be able to say to you going into these things?
I think very few people get a cohabitation agreement that are not married. Yeah. I really think that this is a legal mechanism and document that you should be getting the advice for. If you're buying a house with your spouse, if you're not married, you should get your financial terms down on paper. Mm-hmm. A lot of things change over time. And, it's good to make sure that you're protected. Specifically, if there is a situation that there's not equality. So, for example, sometimes two people will buy a house together. We see this all the time. And one person puts up all the down payment and the other person is basically just on the mortgage and on the title. Mm-hmm. So, their intention is that person will get the down payment back and then maybe they'll split the remaining equity. It's good to get these things down on paper. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to make an agreement when things are good. And I can tell you, people get wild about two things, Todd. Mm-hmm. One is money. Two is kids. And oftentimes in a matrimonial breakdown, there can be one or the other or both. So really get your intentions down on paper. And I would say it's even more important if you are not married to get a cohabitation agreement.
Yeah. How often do you see a purchase made by a home and you know that one of the two, whatever the dynamic is not quite happy with the purchase? Does that happen sometimes and you just realize?
Well, sometimes maybe the relationship's rocky already.
Yeah.
You know what? You just get that sense.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, those people, they get a variable rate, hell or high water. You know what? I have had so many couples break up. I don't know. I think during the pandemic, people either got a divorce right away or they stayed together because it was just like, hey, we needed housing and we're just going to fight this out.
Yeah, that's right.
But now that things, we're getting more into a normal situation, I would venture to guess if we had a family lawyer on the show, they would say that the amount of separations and divorces have gone up, really. I think 2024, people are pulling the plug, baby.
Yeah. So when it comes to people, sometimes when they get together to do a mortgage and they get to that place or they're renewing, sometimes some surprises come up financially as to what's been going on with the other person's finances. And I'm sure you see that on a very regular basis, right?
People do not talk about their finances as much as for the last 6 years we've been breaking down the barriers for the show, talking about financial literacy, talking about open your mail, talk about have your wine Wednesday or whatever, and open your bills and talk about your finances and your credit and your income and your assets. People are just real solo operators, and maybe that's why you're having matrimonial breakdown. Maybe you're not talking about your problems. The whole point about being in a relationship is you can work on these problems together, and I think being open and honest with your spouse is a great way to do it. I mean, we've all had breakups. Let's be honest. I've had some, Todd. You've had some. We all go into these relationships really optimistic, and I think if you're not going to be open and you're not going to share, and finances are, I think, such a big, issue. And I think it's just one thing that, many couples just have not been able to, break that barrier and really be honest with each other. So I see them in my office, and sometimes, I'll get a little email or a call to be like, hey, I have this secret credit card that I don't want my spouse to hear about.
Can you hide it?
Or,
No.
be like, I don't want you to tell them about this one. Or I have this secret bank account I don't want them to know about.
Yeah.
And you know what? I am all about protecting people's privacy. But sometimes you just have to be open and honest, and sometimes this is a roadblock that you just cannot get past. And sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news.
Yep. How often, when you're have a couple, whatever the dynamic again across from you, are there discussions about how much they want to spend, and there's a disagreement on how much that they should spend? And how much coaching do you do when it comes to that, wants and needs and areas and locations and all of that? I'm sure there's a bit of marriage counseling, financial counseling. Yeah,
it's oftentimes when it comes to a pre-approval.
Yeah.
I think right now, for an example, the average house price in HRM is somewhere around $500,000 here in Halifax. And I see people who want to get a pre-approval for $300,000, and I see people who want to get a pre-approval for $600,000. And typically what I say is right now the average home price is $500,000. Let's get a pre-approval in place for the maximum that you can afford. So then when you find this dream place that you want to buy, you know what the payment's going to be, and you know that I can get you approved. Yeah. Because I think sometimes one spouse is already there, they know what the expectation is, but the other one just hasn't, got there yet. And that's a conversation those two need to have together. But I think it's my job just to make that path so much easier. So then when they're both on the same page, they know they're good to go and that they can proceed. If you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn more, feel free to visit us online at teamclinton.ca.